Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm your host and producer, Jimmy Bennet, and Books and Beyond is the show where we like to help people personify their aspirations. Got a nice show today, very special guest, a regular on the show, Mr. Larry Zaccaro. We both have new books out, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. One thing I'd like to mention before we get into things is the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association of Connecticut. The Southeastern chapter meets at the Groton Public Library the third Monday of every month at 6:30.
Right.
So anybody who's interested in writing, agents or editors or whatever, illustrators, please come. It's a great way to meet fellow writers and get a little inspiration and some networking. So we urge you to join. And another thing we'll talk about in a few minutes is Toastmasters, which me and Larry both belong to. I'm going to let Larry explain a little bit more about Toastmaster, and then we'll get to our books. So, Larry Zaccaro?
Jim and I are both members of the Mystic Aquarium Toastmasters Club, which meets in the Milne Research Center right next to the aquarium in Mystic, the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month, from 5 o'clock to 6:30. So all members and all guests are welcome coming down and check it out. We'd love to have you. There's no pressure to speak, but we like the input and opinions and creativity of guests and new members. So everyone's welcome to come down and see what we're doing. It's a great opportunity, as Jim has found out in the last few months, to really get comfortable speaking in front of audiences and organizing and writing speeches, giving them publicly, a little bit of a thinking on your feet exercise, and something we call table topics, where you don't know the question until that second that you have to talk about it. Talk for 2 minutes about a subject or a question you don't know. It's really a lot of fun and a real good challenge to keep your brain, mind, and ideas coming quickly. So we do that every meeting. Guests are encouraged to participate in that.
Yep.
So come down to the Milne Center at the aquarium at 5 o'clock, second and fourth Wednesdays. Love to have you try it out.
I can tell you, I've been doing this show for almost 2 years now, and you know me, I could talk a seagull off a fishing boat. I have no problem with that. But organizing your speech, keeping your thoughts organized, and just how you speak, cutting out the ums and the you-knows, and hear what I'm saying? You feeling me? You get that out, and it does give you a lot more confidence to speak to people. And believe it or not, it'll help you in many, many ways, either professionally or personally.
For interviews, for meeting people, just being able to carry on conversations, that, like I said, that thinking on your feet, asking the right questions of people you've just met.
Right.
So, and it's great to have that mirror held up in front of you when you're speaking.
Yes.
Because you don't know that you're using crutch words like so or well or you know. And I didn't know my crutch word was so until I started getting positive feedback on it. And so I've eliminated it almost entirely in my speeches. But without Toastmasters and the practice and that process, I wouldn't have been able to do
well, it's a great group of people, and it's not, I mean, I've got to say, when I first started, I thought, oh man, I don't know if I want people, critiquing everything I say, and you think it's going to be like kind of harsh.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's not. It's
very positive, very constructive, just reminders, really.
Nice people. I mean, anyways, come on down and check us out. I think you should
do that.
So today we got a book launch for both me and Larry. Both of these books have been out for a few weeks, a month.
Mine's been out several weeks.
Yeah, mine's been out about a month or so, but I haven't really done much, a couple of events, but anyways, I started a new series which I call the William Gillette in Mystic series. One of the things I had noticed about Mystic over the last few years, we've been getting a lot of fame, a lot of notoriety, of course, a lot more influx of tourists and people and stuff like that.
It is a prominent tourist destination.
You look at it, and it's wonderful for the restaurants and the scenery and the Argia and all the other things that you can do, the Mystic Seaport, and things you can do a thing. But I kind of lament, as growing up here, how open it used to be, how you could go almost anywhere. You know, it wasn't private property or
Right.
condos or, you know, and Mystic has a huge, rich history of shipbuilding and the fishing industries and stuff like that. And really, right up till about maybe the 60s or 70s, when the tourist boom really started to kick in, it was, you know, it was a very rural, very quaint town. Anyways, the more I started looking into Mystic, the more I found these fascinating subjects and things that had happened. And all these people, like all these roads you go down, like Blinderman Ave, and this. I went to Carl C. Cutler High School, junior high school. I didn't know who Carl C. Cutler was until last year or 2 years ago when I started researching the book. And so it was kind of fascinating that way. I would think, you know, maybe internationally, maybe people wouldn't be as interested, though I did write a couple of clever, cozy mysteries into the stories.
Right.
But if you're a native or live around here or have visited the area, I would really recommend you picking them up. The first one is a case of Mayan mayhem in Mystic, is set in Mystic in 1932. And the last one here, The Case of Two Birds, is set in Noank in 1922. And I really kind of thought it was kind of neat, but I have 4 pictures, old pictures on the front here from 1922. And then on the back, I have what those same buildings look like today, which they haven't really changed much, but they've just changed ownership and stuff like that. So I have a third one coming out, and I'm hoping to get 6 altogether. So stay tuned. I will be at the Velvet Mill this coming Saturday, the 21st, for the Alzheimer's Purple Power Festival. So if you're in the area, come on down to the Velvet Mill and check us out.
I will add that I've read both of those. They're both quite charming and engaging, and it is very interesting to hear all these familiar names in this area.
Yep.
Streets are named for.
Right.
Other things, to hear the names and you put them into the context of this mystery, this story.
Yeah.
It's very, little extra twist for the interest of it.
And there's so much more. Every time I go looking, I get ideas for 4 more.
Right.
It's just unbelievable when you start digging into it. But, so Larry has a new book out, a new children's book.
I do.
And I'm going to let him tell you about it, and then we'll talk about that.
I can't talk about my new children's book without first describing my novel, Convergent. That's been out for a few years now. That actually, the ideas for Convergent really started in my mind 45 years ago. That's how old this has been progressing. Some far-reaching ideas into the nature of life, what love is, how we need to apply it to our lives, not just a romantic love or some touchy-feely thing, but practical application of what the process is on a global scale. And through that, understanding what we really are, what the nature of the source of the stuff that made us is. So frankly, DNA is what we're all made in the image is. That's the core of the ideas that are in Convergent. There's some scientific descriptions and things that are pretty, not too technical. It's like biology 101, but they are described in a bit of detail in Convergent. Now, I've gotten some feedback on that. I've had people talk to me about it and ask questions about it. But overall, I think it's a bit too much for most people. But if you like science fiction, if you like an engaging thriller, it's a fictional story with a bad guy and things happen to his family. But the whole reason it was written was to express these ideas and give people something to think about when they come away from that story. So that was written, the first version of it 2 decades ago. I wrote this Convergent a few years ago. But all the beautiful things just came out a few weeks ago. What I did with this children's book was have this very quaint, very sweet setting with a grandfather mouse and his granddaughter. They've just had a family sad event. And Olivia, the granddaughter, asks a lot of questions of Grandpa, like what happened to Grandma, where is she, what, do I need to worry about this? Some very far-reaching questions and ideas that everyone has, especially kids. And Grandpa answers her in a very factual, a very simple way. And the way the book is presented for kids, it's a great context to have parents read it to young children and then have the opportunity to talk about some of these questions and ideas of what life is, and I miss Grandma so much, and what can we do, that kind of thing. So it's written in a very simple format with beautiful, absolutely beautiful illustrations. So a wonderful artist named Michael Blanton, I hired him to do my artwork, and they're very, very spectacular, actually.
Yeah,
the drawings.
they really are.
And so I wrapped the story around some of his illustrations. Of course, I describe to him what I need to depict in these illustrations, but then give him a lot of leeway on what the actual content is, the colors and the scope of it. But I approve everything, and then he formatted the book for me. And it's on Kindle Direct Publishing. I think that's the same as your books as well. But so it has these really significant ideas and points of philosophy and discussion embedded in this story of a sweet little mouse and her grandfather walking through the woods, observing nature. They face a little bit of the danger of nature for a mouse, but mostly it's the spectacular beauty. They come across rare flower, they come across a bird feeding its babies that prompts some questions. And then importantly, they see a human city down in the valley, and Olivia starts asking important questions about people, and Grandpa answers those questions as well, about why people behave the way they do, why people are different, why are we able to create such magnificent things like music and art and technology, but we're still so cruel and unkind to each other when we have this amazing ability, amazing power, and all the resources we could possibly need. Why aren't we productive and nice to each other all the time? So Grandpa talks very simply and very directly about those kind of questions to little Olivia Mouse. And as I said, it's a great opportunity for parents to discuss these questions, to read the sweet story, and then talk about these questions with their kids and their grandkids.
That's really a great point, because especially nowadays, I think that, well, honestly, I think that if your ideas had come out 100 years ago, they probably would have burned you at the stake. Okay?
Yep, they might have, because you're familiar with them,
right.
And I agree.
I would say I'm a full-blown convert. I mean, I'm not going to put your picture up and start lighting candles in front of it, but
don't do that.
I think your ideas are really, really significant. I mean, I think they're valid points and stuff. Now, I think that, I'm talking from raising my children. Now, I had a father-in-law who was pretty upset with us for not raising the kids in the Catholic Church.
Right.
But I went through the whole Catholic Church system from a child. Mm-hmm. Altar boys, Sunday schools, Catholic school, stuff like that. And yes, I was very disillusioned with organized religion. And even now, I think it's wonderful that people find inspiration and hope in the church, whatever church they belong to. I believe that people want to believe, and I do think there is a higher power than us. Now, how you describe that higher power is a whole different thing.
Right.
I can't see some benevolent old man sitting on a throne up above, watching everything, making everything happen exactly the way he wants it, or whatever. I don't see that. I can't see it as a personification, But I believe, as you said, our DNA, the power of our life, of life itself, is a higher power. And when we aspire to be like that higher power, it is, I think, through kindness, goodness.
Right.
You know, not to say, I mean, there's things that came out of the Bible, I think, were the great, do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Great advice.
Can't make that any better.
Great foundation for how to live your life.
Right.
So the DNA is the source of what we are. And if you think that something has created DNA or programmed it from outside of us, there's no evidence for that. But we know that when we're conceived, apart from our mom, apart from our dad, come together, and everything that we are, everything that we become, comes from those two cells from our parents. That's absolutely a fact. That's not debatable. But it's remarkable. That's a godlike act. When those two cells combine to conceive us, what is built? Just think about what we are with our skeletons, with our digestive systems, with our brains, with our eyes. All those incredible abilities that we have all come from those two cells. That is godlike. That's what a godlike act is. So God is not out there in a throne and, well, why did he make the universe infinite and we're only on this one little planet in the middle of everything? So,
right.
I'm making your point, but the important thing is we're different. We're different than all other life forms. And this is something that Grandpa talks about with his granddaughter Mouse and All the Beautiful Things, that we have brains that are completely different than any other organism. What that allows us to do is all the things that humans have created that no other life form can really even understand how to do. Amazing music, amazing artwork, architecture, technology, all of it. And what is different is our brains are much bigger, and we don't follow instinct like every other organism does, every other life form. Plants, any kind of animal, any kind of microorganism, how they behave and what they do is all pre-programmed into them. They run away from danger or they face the sun, whatever it is. They don't have this flexibility and creativity that people do. We can come up with these amazing, creative, intellectual things, but what that also allows us to do is behave horribly. We have this ability to, and I'm afraid this knack to, act cruelly, act selfishly, to do horrible things to other people, to even other life forms, when it's always our choice on how we behave.
Right.
So the part of and Grandpa explains that just in a few sentences to his granddaughter, that if everyone behaves in a way that they choose to love everyone on a personal scale, but even on a global scale, that the quality of life will be better for everyone, for all life on Earth, and especially for humans and all humans. So it's a really big subject, a really big idea, and the main character in Convergent talks about that with some very specific scientific detail. So I toned it way down and simplified it, make it in a kid's book so that parents and kids could comprehend these ideas and questions, think about them, and have a chance to talk about it with their parents or grandparents or caregivers and ask their own questions and try and understand it.
Well, I think that's good. I mean, I think especially in this day and age with social media and the way everybody's tied to their technology.
Yep.
Let's face it, I think the younger generation more and more are having their questions about organized religion. Mm-hmm. They see so much now that the difference was when I was a kid and I was in the Catholic schools in the Catholic religion, there wasn't any other talk about any other religions except for they were wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't get it right. Catholics were right. Everybody else was going to hell. And as you get older and you start realizing that there are people out there who believe much more fiercely in their God than I ever believed in mine.
Right.
So who's right? You know, who's doing it? But I think that, as you said, the fact that if we kind of realize that, I mean, it's in us, it's in everybody.
Yeah.
It's in every living thing. Every, you know, I mean, when you really think about it, the incredible, you know, it's kind of mind blowing even when you think about, you know, how plants survive and reproduce, and plankton and bugs, and you know what I mean. And, you know?
It's a remarkable thing that they all come from that one source.
Right.
And I describe this both in Convergent and in All the Beautiful Things. God, DNA, figured out how to do all these things over 1 billion years.
Yeah.
Okay, God didn't make the sun. God didn't make water. God didn't make other planets or anything else in the universe. God is life. And over 1 billion years, God figured out how to use the sun to make energy that could grow himself,
right,
to reproduce and make life forms that are sustainable. He figured out that water is abundant, so that's a real important component of all life, what we are, of course, and what all life forms are. How to use the minerals. Carbon is critical, and nitrogen, and all the other elements that are available on Earth over 1 billion or more years. God figured out how to use those in a process that, you know, we call evolution, which has been going on forever and still goes on. So it's not, you know, a wave of the hand to create everything, but it's a scientific process of figuring it out for that long of a period of time to make all these new and constantly improving life forms. So that, like I said, that is godlike. There's nobody up there controlling where lightning goes, or who decided that a volcano was going to erupt or made an earthquake happen. God is life and everything associated with that, and learning out how best to survive on our little planet here, isolated in the universe.
Yep. I once read an essay about a man who talked about the uniqueness of humans.
Right.
And his point was, well, he was actually sort of anti-alien. He said that, you know, he didn't think there was other intelligent life forms in the universe because of the series of accidents and circumstances over, like you say, millions of years,
right,
that led us to now. It really can't be replicated somewhere else. But in some ways, I think it's kind of arrogant to think, you know. But it'd be funny. It's fun to, well, not fun, but I mean, it's interesting to think of, you know, other planets with its own type of DNA.
So that's a really important question. So when we think of life, you know, in our context, all life is the same here. There's just a few nucleotides that make up DNA, yeah, that have an exact replication and exact transfiguration into proteins. And all life has these same few molecules made out of the same thing. Now, if there's life on another planet and another galaxy and another solar system, you have to start with, well, does it have DNA? And the answer is almost for sure no. DNA developed and started here. So explaining that it was formed somewhere else doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And that it was formed somewhere else and came here, arrived here, and started life on this planet makes even less sense, because it would have to survive the vacuum of space, survive entry into our atmosphere. All life on Earth started here and evolved here from its own doing, from its own direction.
Right.
And it's a very important perspective that Earth is the only place we will ever live practically. We can go to other planets, but we just basically have to create a little room to live in that's like Earth.
Right.
So why would we do that?
Right.
The whole point of what we should be doing is making Earth as user-friendly as possible. All the resources we could possibly want are here. All the energy, all the water, all the organic material to get our food and grow our food or harvest our food. Everything is here. There's no advantage to going anywhere else. As a matter of fact, it's dangerous, expensive, and guaranteed it will be unsuccessful just from the distances.
Right.
Even to go to Mars is, what, a 3-year journey?
Yeah, 3-year journey, yeah.
It's absurd. Our resources and attention need to be on this planet, how best to distribute water, energy, make food available to everything, and make it sustainable. That's actually love on a global scale, to make the quality of life better for everyone, and to keep life sustainable for all of us long term. So.
And like I said, and I think really the point of it all is that really we are all the same.
We are.
We all came from the same thing, DNA.
Yep.
And if people would just sort of realize that, maybe they'd stop looking at the differences and start thinking more about the likenesses and the common traits that we all share.
No, we all look different. We're all 99.6% the same.
Yep.
Even though there's superficial differences, and our prejudice will put us into different categories. You know, we have races, or we have religions, or we have sexual preference. Whatever it is a destructive and isolating exercise. We are all basically the same and need to act the same for the benefit of everyone.
Well, there you go. And Larry's book, you're available on Amazon?
Amazon, All the Beautiful Things in Convergent, and all my other books are available on Amazon.
So really, check it out. I think it's a great way to start your children. At least get them thinking about it.
Right.
Take it from there. I hope everything goes well, and we'll hopefully the world will sort of gel at one point or
Maybe
another.
it'll sink in
Who knows?
long term.
Who knows? You know. Well, thank you very much, Larry.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Jim.
having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for Books and Beyond today. We'll see you next time. Thank you.